We needed a break from you. Don't call. That's what my 9-year-old daughter, Zara, found on our kitchen table, alone, at 6 a.m. on Christmas Eve. While I was 100 miles away pulling a hospital shift, my parents, my sister, and their kids had packed for a beach resort and left Zara behind without a word. She whispered, "Mom, the house is empty." And suddenly, I couldn't feel my own legs, not sadness, not anger, just this cold, electric stillness, the kind that comes right before you decide what needs to burn. 4 days later, they walked back into that house. They found what I left them. And then they were the ones panicking. Stay to the end. You'll understand why. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Zara did, eventually. Curled into my side like she was afraid I might disappear if she let go. Every time I shifted, her fingers tightened in my shirt, like a reflex, like her body had learned something her mind didn't have words for yet. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying her voice on the phone over and over. The house is empty. Not scared screaming, not crying, just small, flat, careful. That was the part that hurt the most. People think the worst thing you can do to a child is yell at them or punish them too hard. But the real damage comes when you teach them they're inconvenient, that their presence is optional, that love can take a vacation without them. Zara had always been the quiet one in my family, thoughtful, gentle, the kind of kid who notices when someone's tone changes, who apologizes even when she's not sure what she did wrong. My parents used to call her sensitive, like it was a flaw that needed correcting. My sister, Samantha, joked that Zara was too much work compared to her boys. She just needs to toughen up, Samantha liked to say, laughing, as if emotional armor was something you could order online for a 9-year-old. I tried to push back, softly at first, then firmer. But every time I did, I became the problem. "You're projecting," my mother would say. "You see trauma everywhere because of your job." I'm an ER doctor. I know the difference between projection and pattern recognition, but they didn't want to hear that. They preferred the version of me who paid the bills and stayed quiet. By the time Zara was 5, my parents had moved in to help. By the time she was 7, Samantha and her kids followed. What was supposed to be temporary turned into years. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the streaming services everyone complained about but never canceled. If something broke, it was magically my responsibility. If someone needed childcare, it was assumed I'd rearrange my shifts. And somehow, despite carrying the weight of the whole house, I was still treated like the outsider, responsible, reliable, convenient. Zara saw it even when I thought she didn't. She learned early how to stay out of the way. How to retreat to her room when voices got loud, how to shrink herself when adults were stressed. The night before I left for my Christmas Eve shift, she hugged me longer than usual. "Sometimes they're mean," she said quietly. "I don't know why." I told her she was safe. I told her family takes care of each other. I believed it because I needed to. And while I was stitching strangers back together in a city that wasn't ours, my family packed suitcases, loaded the car, took toys for Samantha's kids, took coffee mugs, took their comfort, and left my daughter behind with a note that told her, without saying it, that she was the reason they needed a break. That wasn't just careless. That was cruel. The morning after Christmas, Zara helped me pack without asking why. She moved slowly but with purpose, like she'd already decided that staying didn't feel safe anymore, not just physically, but emotionally. That broke me more than the note. She didn't ask, "Are we coming back?" She asked, "Should I bring my reading light?" Like she already understood this wasn't just a trip. It was a retreat, a quiet escape. We left everything that didn't matter. Furniture, family photos, the "Bless This Home" sign. My mother insisted on hanging over the front door. But we took the things that were ours. Zara's books, her sketch pad, the little lamp shaped like a fox that helped her fall asleep, and a folder of documents I'd started building after the call with my lawyer friend, just in case. Because something in me had shifted. It wasn't rage, it was clarity. For years, I told myself that holding the family together was noble, that being the glue, the fixer, was a role I should be proud of. I made excuses when they criticized Zara, swallowed my discomfort when they joked at her expense, let them take space in my house and called it love. but love isn't supposed to cost your child her peace. Zara had always been my center, not just because she's my daughter, but because of the way she loved, so purely, so freely, so unguarded. She never asked for much. She gave everyone a chance, even when they didn't deserve it, even when it hurt her. And now, because I let toxicity wear a family costume long enough, she had to unlearn the idea that love meant being left behind. When we got to the apartment, small, unfamiliar but quiet, I made her hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. She sat on the floor, socks mismatched, and asked, "Is this just for a few days?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was still unfolding, so I just said, "Let's see how we feel here." The next morning, I called the hospital, switched shifts, and arranged for a few days off. I called the utilities, the bank, the property office. I started untying knots I had spent years pretending were part of being a good daughter. I even called Reed, the only person who wasn't blood, just to ask a simple question. "When they come back, will they be surprised?" He didn't answer at first. Then he just said, "They think you're still scared to rock the boat." I smiled. Not bitter, not cruel. Just done. That night, Zara and I ate pad thai on an air mattress and watched cartoons on my laptop. She didn't laugh much, but she breathed. Real, slow, steady breaths. And for the first time in years, I felt something that wasn't exhaustion. I felt resolve. They thought they could leave my daughter like luggage on a porch and come home to the same version of me. They were wrong. I knew they were back before anyone said a word. My phone started buzzing on the kitchen counter of the apartment. Once, twice, then over and over again. Not texts, calls. The kind of calling pattern people use when something is wrong and they expect you to fix it. Zara was coloring at the table. She flinched at the sound and looked up at me, eyes searching my face. I turned the phone face down. "It's okay," I said, even though my pulse had already picked up. "You're safe." The calls kept coming. I let it ring, because for once I needed to know what they felt like when the ground shifted under them. 4 days earlier, I had walked out of that house quietly. No shouting, no drama, just a printer, 3 sheets of paper, and a decision that felt heavier than any shift I'd ever worked. Now they were standing in that same kitchen. I could picture it too clearly. The suitcases dropped by the door, the post-vacation chaos. My mother reaching automatically for the coffee maker, my father scanning the room, already annoyed by the silence, Samantha checking her phone, sunburned and impatient. And then, the table, the exact spot where Zara had found their note. This time, it wasn't a torn notebook page. It was a clean, typed notice. 3 copies. One centered neatly on the table, one taped to the inside of the front door, one laid flat on my parents' bed. Effective immediately, your permission to reside in this property is revoked. You have 7 days to remove your belongings. Failure to do so will result in formal eviction proceedings. Do not contact Zara. All communication goes through me. I imagined my mother's hands shaking as she read it. My father rereading the same line, convinced he'd misunderstood. Samantha laughing once, sharp and disbelieving, before realizing I was serious. That's when the screaming would have started. My phone lit up again. This time I answered. "Naomi," my mother said, breathless. "Where are you? Where is Zara? Why is the house empty?" "She's with me," I said calmly. "She's safe." There was a pause. Not relief, shock. My father's voice cut in behind her. "You can't just do this. We've lived there for years." "You've lived in my house," I corrected, "and you left my daughter alone." "That's not what happened," my mother said quickly. "We were coming back. It was just for a few hours. After breakfast, after the pool, after you remembered she existed," I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Samantha jumped in. "You're blowing this out of proportion. She was fine." "She thought something had happened to all of you," I said. "She thought she did something wrong. She read a note telling her not to call the people she trusted most." Silence. Not guilt yet. Calculation. "You're tearing this family apart," my father said finally. I closed my eyes for a second. Not because I was wavering, but because the clarity hurt. "No," I said. "I'm protecting mine." My mother's voice softened. "Naomi, we didn't think you'd actually—" "I did," I said. "And I'm not changing my mind." They didn't yell after that. They tried something worse, confusion, guilt, disbelief, as if calm persistence might undo what they couldn't intimidate away. But the truth was already sitting on the table. This time, it wasn't my daughter reading it alone. They showed up at the hospital 2 days later. It was almost the end of my shift. A nurse caught me near the break room and said, "Your family's here. Do you want to use the side exit?" I didn't even hesitate. No, let them wait. I found them standing just outside the main entrance. My mother, father, and Samantha. They weren't yelling. That would have been too easy. No, they looked off balance. Clothes rumpled, my father's shirt half-tucked, Samantha's hair in a messy bun, no makeup. My mother's eyes were red, though I didn't know if it was from crying or just not sleeping. "Naomi," my mom started, stepping forward. "Please, we need to talk." I nodded. "Then listen." They all went still. I kept my voice even. "You left Zara alone on Christmas Eve. No call, no message, nothing but a note telling her not to reach out." Samantha crossed her arms, already defensive. "It wasn't supposed to be like that." "But it was," I said. "That's the part you don't seem to get. It happened." "She's not hurt," my father said, his voice clipped. "You're acting like we abandoned her in the woods." "She thought she was abandoned," I said. "That's the point. She was terrified. And you didn't check on her, not once." "We were overwhelmed," Samantha muttered. "We're watching 3 kids, Naomi. You know how hard that is." I didn't flinch. "You don't get to put my daughter down because you're tired. She's 9. She's a child, not a burden you can shelve when you need a cocktail and a poolside nap." My mother stepped forward. "We didn't think you'd take it this far. Kicking us out?" "You're not being kicked out," I said. "You're being removed from a place you never paid for, never respected, and treated like your own while acting like I was the tenant." Samantha scoffed. "We helped." "Did you?" I asked. "Let's talk about that." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. My hands didn't shake. I handed them copies, printed, time-stamped. "Bank statements," I said. "Utility bills, every line in my name, every month, every dollar." My father frowned. "What is this supposed to prove?" "That I paid for everything," I said. "Mortgage, power, groceries, even your streaming services. You were living in my home like it was a vacation rental, and the only thing I got back was criticism for how I raised my daughter." "You never said you needed help," my mother whispered. "Because every time I tried, you made me feel like asking for boundaries was betrayal," I said. "I asked you not to mock Zara's sensitivity. You laughed. I asked you not to compare her to Owen. You rolled your eyes. I begged you to see her, and instead you left her with a note that broke something in her I may never fully fix." They looked down at the papers, suddenly silent. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm done." Samantha shook her head. "This is so dramatic." "No," I said, stepping closer. "This is boundaries. You don't get to treat people however you want and expect them to hand you keys and forgiveness in return." My mother's voice cracked. She called me Grandma. "She still does," I said, "but now she knows that title doesn't make you safe." None of them had anything to say to that. I took a breath, steady. "You have 5 days left. After that, I file for formal eviction. If you need help finding housing, there are resources. But we're done living like I owe you space just because we share blood." They didn't follow me when I walked away. I didn't look back. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I owed them anything for leaving. Zara and I returned to the house a week after they moved out. It was quiet, but this time, the silence felt different. Not heavy or dangerous, just still. Like the walls were finally taking a breath with us. We walked through every room together. She touched the bookshelves, the blanket on the couch, the edge of the table, like she was asking, "Is this really ours now?" "Yes," I said, "it's all yours. It's home." We spent the afternoon setting up her room the way she liked it. Fairy lights, her fox lamp, a new poster she picked out herself. Her drawings went back up on the wall like they never left. That night, we cooked pasta and watched cartoons. Zara fell asleep on my lap halfway through the movie. No tension in her shoulders, no glances toward the door, just peace. And I realized this wasn't about punishing anyone. It was about protecting what mattered. Family doesn't give you the right to hurt people and call it love. Family is supposed to be a place of safety, not survival. I had been trying to hold everyone together for so long, I forgot that I was allowed to let go. I didn't cut ties to hurt them. I did it to heal us. Zara is my family. That is enough. This wasn't revenge. It was freedom. And we earned it by choosing ourselves. If you've ever had to walk away from people you love just to protect your peace, know this: you are not wrong. You are not alone. And it does get better. Tell me in the comments if you've ever been in a situation like this. What did you choose? And if this story made you feel seen, subscribe for more family drama stories that speak the truth and remind us we are allowed to choose ourselves, no matter who tries to make us feel guilty for it.